Hello, I'm Adrian Crawford. It's Williams Crawford, Passion for Porsche. This week's little video, I thought I'd show you or revisit something that we achieved probably 4 years ago now. It stood the test of time really well, but at the time maybe we didn't go over the detail of it, and it's a really special car that we had a hand in from start to finish, and it had a really interesting story. So come with me, let me show you what we achieved and what we're able to do. The car I'd like to show you is this Porsche 930, a turbo, 911 turbo if you like, and known as a Martini. But there's a lot of confusion about Porsche 930 Martinis. In 1978, Porsche produced a Martini Championship Edition, of which they built, I believe, 9. However, they're not the most rare of all. This is a 1977 3-litre non-intercooled car, built to replicate by customer special order. Their special wishes department at Porsche built this to replicate the car that was shown on the 1976 motor show stand. Now, the signatures of this car are really the interior, because you can imagine a white 930 with stripes is not too hard to create, but the interior most definitely is. And this car represents a considerable amount of work and research that we, Williams Crawford, carried out, having taken the car in a dilapidated state. It had sat in a garden on the south coast of England for 21 years. And let me just show you some of the interesting work that we've done. One of the things when you're making a restoration of this magnitude is to keep things as original as possible. And on this car we've managed all original metal, the original fenders, doors, bonnet, the floors, sills, those are original. We added very little metal to it. There's something special about the flared wheel arches as well that we managed to keep. The only major metal bit that we had to deal with is this rear spoiler, because it's a glass fibre rear spoiler on top of a steel lid, and we had to cut off the steel because it was rotten, cut off a new lid and rebond it. Here we have the correct periscope washer jets, very hard to find, and when you do they're expensive. The Pirelli P7 tyres, all date marked wheels. The wheels have got a manufacturing date on the back. The 911S style brake calipers as opposed to the later 917 style. But it's inside that I think is the most impressive part of this car. So here you see the unique blue leather, red carpets, white seats, and the blue and red padding. The seats were allegedly designed by Dr. Furman and now known as the Furman seats. It's part of the Martini specification, if you were. And we had to have the leather remade, reproduced to create the correct colour, the texture, the sheen and the grain. We photographed and measured all the stitching and replicated exactly what was there, including any errors. The plan was that if the original lady that made it saw it, she would say, definitely, this is my work. Even the carpets we had to have specially made to get the colour and the texture and the depth of pile. So there was nothing easy about the interior at all. But that is the key to a true factory Martini. Interesting things on this car. Underneath this leather dash is actually a red dash. Porsche must have just simply taken whatever was available or whatever was not going to be sold that easily. So there's a red dash underneath that. All the instruments we refurbished, the steering wheel we refurbished. Under the dash is a crayoned number. We've replaced that, we photographed it and have replaced all the markings. The same inside the door, you get this crayoned number to do with the way that the car was built. We refurbished the original stereo and the dictaphone. Now there's something for the kids, they won't know what that is. So that was working, and I think we have done a world-class job on this car. We're really, really proud of it. The interior came out beautifully and extremely difficult to do. Look at those colours, just fabulous. Well, we've talked about the interior, we've talked about the body. Now I want to show you the engine. Now the engine on this car is original to the car, it's numbers matching, and so is the transmission. And that's sort of not important on an ordinary car if you just had a shopping car, but on something like this it really is. But we had to salvage the crankcases and salvage the gearbox because they'd been sat on and in the ground for over 20 years. Finding the components that were completely rotten on this engine were extremely difficult. We rebuilt it here in-house, rebuilt the transmission, and what we have now is a 3-litre Martini turbo that is just gorgeous. It shows the work that we're able to produce in the restoration department. It shows the commitment of the owner, and when sometimes we think that all those old skills are lost, well, I have to say that here is a good display that those skills still exist. So it's no doubt that there'll be people asking questions or wanting to challenge some of the things that I might have said about this car. But what we've told you is what we believe to be the case, and we spent quite a bit of time, along with Keith soon, researching everything about this. And we're pretty confident we know what we're talking about. One of the great things of this job is that I get to test these cars. So what's it like to drive? Now for me, driving any Porsche is an adventure. I really enjoy my driving, and a Porsche is all about the joy of the driving. But a 930 turbo 3-litre non-intercooled is a bit special, and I've driven a lot of 930s, both modified and standard cars. This feels quite different. It would have weighed in at about, I think it was 1160 kilos and only 260 horsepower, so nothing particularly special on those figures. But bear in mind, we're talking about 1977 and Mark III Cortinas feeling fast, you know. When you get in this, you're aware that they have a reputation, the Widowmaker so-called. But initially, it just feels really, really docile. It's smooth, it's quiet, 1000 RPM, 2000 RPM, 3000 RPM. What's all the fuss about? Get to 4,000 and all hell breaks loose, and it is fantastic. It feels just so raw and so involving, and you can imagine with little 911S brakes on the front that these cars probably were a bit to handle. You know, a sporting car back then, you'd have been lucky to have had 100 horsepower, and here we've got 2.5 times that in a 1150 kilo car. It was something special. You got a 0 to 60 of just a shade over 6 seconds, and a top speed, I think about 155 or 156, something like that, with a little 4-speed gearbox. Air conditioning. This was the pinnacle of Porsche road cars at the time. I'm really quite proud of the work that was done here with this. There's lots of very special bits and pieces that I don't want to go into on this video because they're unique to this car and all part of the reason why we're very confident that what we've got here is an original factory car, and what we've done to it is really good. But today, highlighting the work that we do, thought I'd show you the car before it disappears forever, because this type of thing goes off into people's collections and often never sees the light of day, which is a real shame, and a shame for us. And showing you something that is extremely uncommon. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm Adrian Crawford. Thank you very much for watching. It's Williams Crawford. We got passion for Porsche spilling out of every orifice in this building. See you again soon.